Next week, this country's new Defence Secretary, Dan Jarvis, will meet his counterparts in Brussels. On the agenda, NATO defence spending. If you want to hear the case for NATO, head east. And just before you get to Russia, you'll find a bunch of countries for whom increasing defence spending is not in the would like to have basket of priorities, but rather make it happen now category. Last year, Poland spent 4.3% of GDP on defence, Lithuania 4%, Latvia 3.7%. In Latvia, where defence spending was just 1% of GDP around a decade ago, it is rising to 4.9% this year, and a new law requires it to be 5% of GDP every year from 2027. Here in Britain, we spent 2.3% of GDP on defence last year, and that's going to rise to 2.5% next year and 3.5% by 2035. According to The Times, John Healey resigned as Defence Secretary this week after being told the financial settlement for the Defence Investment Plan would be up to £10 billion short of what he was expecting just weeks earlier. Baiba Braže is the Latvian Foreign Minister and joins us now. Ms Braže, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let's just start with the broadest picture, if we may. Why do Latvians, why do you consider it so important to raise defence spending and do so quickly?
Well, the short answer is a threat picture that altogether at NATO as allies, currently 32 allies, 32 countries, we have identified Russia as a main threat to the Euro-Atlantic and allies' security. And the second answer is because we actually all of us have very concrete defense needs. So the capabilities are needed. To get those capabilities, we need defense funding. So those are the two-folded types of answers, and there is a wide support in the parliament. It was unanimous decision to go to 5% next year and then a few years after.
How profoundly was the psychology of your country affected, not just by Russia's re-invasion of Ukraine a few years ago now, but by the invasion of Crimea in 2014?
We have never had particularly high ideals about what type of Russia's behaviors we can expect. In the 90s and beginning of 2000, relationship was quite diplomatic, but in the same time, developments within Russia were worrying and quite concerning. So what we are seeing is indeed a reflection of an authoritarian regime with imperial policies that it has had for many, many years. So we are not surprised, but the answer is, of course, what do we do about it? And we have four main lines of effort. One is to invest ourselves, to make NATO strong and united. 3, support Ukraine, and 4, weaken Russia. And we actually, on all 4, highly appreciate what this British government and previous British governments have been doing, both on raising defense spending, being very transatlanticist, and support Ukraine, sanctions on Russia. So it's a great relationship with UK.
I'm sure. I actually want to ask you, if I may, what you think your message, both in public and private, should be to Britain. We hear what you say now, but yesterday the Pentagon said there was, and I quote, a great need for more British military strength, and that those needs should be met with, again I quote, urgency, scale and determination. I, of course, note what you said a moment ago, and as a diplomat you won't want to comment, I'm sure, on the internal politics of another country. But more broadly, what is your message, Ms Braže, to Britain about the need to move fast on defence spending?
Listen, the British, of course, defense funding is completely different from ours. The amounts going to the nuclear deterrent and everything related to that is different from what is going to conventional. Obviously, it's related, but still, it's a different structure. And I think modernizing and how to sort of reconcile to the maximum the traditional defense capabilities with today's technology, which is most of the time dual use, and where we need the control command systems that are digital and which are very expensive, and completely changing the battlefield. I think that is what we are learning from Ukraine, but also what we are seeing the big change in many of the NATO countries. So Britain is on the right course with F-35s and other capabilities. But of course, it's hard decisions. It was also not easy for us. We had to cut budgets in other sectors. We had to fire people and cut spending. So it's prioritization. And why? I mean, today and tomorrow we are commemorating Russian deportations of the Baltic people in 1941 after the occupation. And, those were innocent families sleeping at home at night who were dragged into cattle wagons and sent to Siberia. Why? Because they were successful people. They were in businesses. They were just, normal families. And that reflection, of course, helps to prioritize. So in that respect, that's why there is unanimity here. And for Britain, it will be a slower sort of process, but you will get there.
Baiba Braže, Latvian Foreign Minister, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.